And 9876. Do I need the mic for recording purposes or can I? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for the afternoon of November the 9th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel at youtube.com, District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public are encouraged to register their name and civic address in advance of the meeting for the public comment opportunity found under items 6 and 9 by emailing corporateofficer@summerland.ca. Those who have not registered in advance but wish to provide public comments may call the District of Summerland conference line at 1-877-385-4099 and enter participant access code 738-2948 during the live meeting. Corporate Officer, are there any late items?
There are none.
Thank you. So if I could ask for approval of the agenda. Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Holmes. All in favor? Thank you. And then the minutes of October the 26th, any errors or omissions there? Okay, could I have someone bring forward adoption? Thank you, Councillor Patton, Councillor Barkwell. All in favor? Thank you. And straight on to item 5, delegations. Is it just you today, Dan?
Yes, Madam
Yes, okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff. Thanks for the opportunity to come and speak with you today. First, let me put your minds at ease. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just going to share some information that may be of interest to you. I'm taking my cues from Marty. If I get a little nervous, I'm just going to chill out. So I was part of the task force, the cultural task force, that started in April of 2015 and submitted its report in October of 2016. I'm not by myself anymore. I think
Welcome, Kellen.
Yeah, this is Kellen. You might want to speak to this. So, as part of that task force, we submitted our report, as I said, October of 2016, and it was pretty comprehensive. We all sat back and thought, proud and thought, well, watch this roll out, it'll be great. And then nothing really rolled out, and so I said to myself, well, if you want something to happen, you have to make it happen. So about 2 years ago, I started working with a coalition of arts and culture groups in town. You'll see the list of which soon. And the initial premise for that was to create a commons of ideas, look at emerging best practices, find out what skill sets were residing within which groups and how we could share and leverage them around. That took about a year and a half to get to the place where we're at now, whereby we have this arts and cultural calendar that I'm keen to share with you. We can do that now, actually, if you like, and then I'll just a few more comments after that and open to some questions. The actual calendar itself. Just in terms of context, we were ready to make this submission last March, but COVID took us offline. Normally this calendar by now would be populated fully, and you can see physically how it looks up there. And then if you go to, Kellen, where's the link about us? Should be on the top of the page. There we go, sure, please. And scroll down, that's the list of the NPOs that are currently working with us right now. And I know you're thinking, well, that's not a very exhaustive list, and it's not, but it was a critical mass that allows us to get established and create some principles of engagement, some reference points for us. and that's served us well in the short term. We realize we have to grow and expand, and we're prepared to do that. In two ways, really. One that's really interesting that I'll share with you. One is we've joined forces with a group in Penticton that are doing something similar. And I have a colleague that sits with me on the board at the credit union who is an HR specialist. And she, along with a partner at Ullman Heel in town, are working with us to create some overarching architecture around this organization, this coalition, that should be able to allow us to employ people, receive monies, and distribute monies through that coordinated group effort or coalition. So we have some fairly interesting, some might say grandiose plans, but they're useful and interesting plans. We think that growing this coalition, and actually the third bullet point coming out of the plan was establish an admin framework to support arts, heritage, and culture in the community. And that's really what this coalition is about. So we're quite aligned with the task force recommendations. Where we see this going next is partnerships, to which to date we have Bottleneck Drive, Waterfront, and then we'll reach out when we get a little farther past COVID to some of their other hospitality groups in town, and a fairly comprehensive list of arts and cultural NPOs that exist out there that we haven't yet made contact with. I'll pause here for a second. Any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns? Okay. How many things you want to add? One of the.
Would like to discuss the future plans for the county calendar platform, or?
Yeah.
Sure. First of all, sorry for my being late, everyone. I forgot my mask at home, so I quickly run and get it. So my apologies for running a couple minutes late. Just a bit of background, I was the one who built the calendar in partnership with a young fellow named Andrew Mitchell, who you may also know. And so I just wanted to speak to the expandability of the calendar. It was really built from the ground up without leveraging existing platforms so that we can expand beyond sort of just the calendar. One thing that we hope to do in the near future is sort of map out trails and beaches in Summerland so we can really encompass all of the, not necessarily tourism-specific aspects of Summerland, but really the culture surrounding it and put that in one place that's really easily accessible to the community. So with the building of this platform, we really emphasize expandability, and I think that's important to understand contextually when you're seeing this. It's not just a calendar. We can really build it out to a significant degree beyond that.
Cool. Yes. Thank you. And Callum's too much humility to admit it. He's one of the chaps from the entrepreneur group that we run in town here. And another chap from that group is, you've probably heard about, he does the drone work. And so he's agreed to help us do the mapping with the drone so we can GPS coordinate the trails and the beaches and so on, and make a nice video interactive piece with them. So we see a really vibrant cultural awareness piece coming off this piece of work. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Do I hear the gong? Comfortable? Are you comfortable with the progress, with the direction we're headed?
Councillor Carlson?
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Callum. It's really great to see that you've put so much time and energy into this. And I know when we did the cultural plan, or when the community created the cultural plan, there was some folks who thought, it'd be really nice if the community could take that plan and be the ones to enact it and not just see that council was, oh, let's point here and let's point here and let's point here. And so the fact that you guys are doing that, I think is really phenomenal. And when you talk about trails and beaches and things like that, I know that a lot of that stuff, we have a trail master plan with maps and things. And so integrating that over the long term, I think hopefully wouldn't be too difficult. I guess I have a question. Do you have any partnership or any relationship with the district? Are there any staff members that have been sort of helping do any of this, or is this completely and solely your initiative?
No, credit where credit to. Angelique put some time and effort into this piece as well, and got help to get it started really back in the day. So kudos to her. We worked with the chamber to some degree in the hopes that we could work off their calendar, that they didn't have the sophistication that we were looking for. So we struck up on our own, and these two whiz kids, we did our own thing. But you're right. If you want it to happen, it has to come from the ground up. And so that's what we see this piece doing. And then, as I say, branching out larger, articulating with the group in Penticton and making a more holistic sort of cultural piece. I mean, just little benign things that you wouldn't even think of when we first got together. Riga Festival ended on September 4th and Fall Fair started September 5th. Well, we used the same volunteer load. I mean, it just wasn't working. So the calendar helped us to really collect our thoughts and see the path forward in terms of how to best manage the calendar to everyone's effect. And lots of other insights, but I save those for another day. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I have a question, and it relates to volunteers. Later on in your presentation, you speak to creating something like a central board for many organizations for HR and accounting work. And my question was, will you also be looking at a central database or some kind of electronic system that will allow ease in member organizations to access volunteers? Is that part of what you're thinking in terms of the next steps as well?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and beyond that, we need to collect data. Data has never really been collected mindfully. For example, if Riga Fest has their event over 2 weeks, and we can collect postal codes from that end up reflecting Calgary, Vancouver, and so on. There's a math formula that you can extrapolate, economic activity within the district from those events. So we hope to sophisticate the data collection processes for all the NGOs and become an economic creator in town here. The other piece with respect to the boards, and I'll stop there, is it's just an example. Volunteers is one example. Each of these 9 organizations in the first critical mass all have boards of directors. It's a small town, there's 11,000 people. You start to wear that process pretty thin at the end of the day. By coalescing, we figure we can have probably 2 boards to run these 9 groups. One board that looks after static things like the museum and the art center and so on. And then another board that looks after more dynamic things like festivals and artistic events and so on. So there are economies of scale to be gained. There are economies around emerging best practices. And we think we can, by creating this overarching architecture, we can tap into different levels of funding supplies. So we will hopefully need to knock on your doors with as much frequency. That's my Christmas gift to you guys. So, that's all I really just wanted to share with you. If you have any other questions or thoughts.
Yes, Councillor Holmes.
Yes, thank you. So I remember when on the cultural plan task force, there was a lot at the time. There was a lot of people saying that the municipality ought to be doing an events calendar, and we should be hosting it and running it, and I don't think we ever saw that as our role, and so we were always hoping the community would step up and do something like this. And I think there's probably even revenue opportunities for running a calendar like this. So thanks for doing that. Exactly what we hope somebody would do. When I lived in Yellowknife back in the day, there was an organization called Storefront for volunteer organizations, and it was very much an umbrella group, such as yours, of all the different nonprofits in town. And what they did is they provided administrative support, and like a lot of these volunteer groups, they can't afford staff, right? It's not, but they all of them have certain things they all do, like you were saying before, the board, you have to have boards, you have to do filings under the Societies Act, you have to do all this admin. And so they had this one umbrella group doing all that, which allowed the nonprofits to really focus on their mandates. And it worked really well. And they even had as the name suggests, a location. downtown where people could drop in and if they were interested in any of their member groups. So I'm just wondering if that's kind of what you envision in the long run, and also have you looked at some of these other models that might be elsewhere in the country?
Thanks, Doug, for your question. We have indeed. We've looked, reflecting back on the task force, we reached out to some of the folks that impressed us with what they were doing within the community, albeit that was at a single organizational perspective. But we've reached out to some of those groups and others to identify what we're trying to accomplish here. Some that have come before us. As I mentioned earlier, my HR friend has got a really interesting architecture that she's sharing with us that will allow us to do many of the things you mentioned and more. For example, one group within this current group of 9 has a brilliant digital marketer. Why does that person work 0.3 FTE for that group when they could work full time for the whole group and probably get a benefit package out of that as well? That's what we're aiming to do, is make full-time hiring commitments to keep resources within the orchestra, within the infrastructure. And then just see where that goes. I mean, there's so much more efficiencies to be gained there. So it's early days. I'm coming to you to share this piece as it sits now. We're ambitious about where we're going next. And as I say, there's a group in Penticton. I think I'll probably be down there chatting with you in a couple of months. They're looking at doing the exact same thing. So there's an economy of scale there as well. And instead of just Summerland, it can be this part of the basin or however we define that. So my thanks to these guys, first of all, because that was funded by and created by the Entrepreneur Club of Summerland. So to your points earlier, absolutely, it's coming from the ground up, and it's not costing the district anything at this point.
Any other, Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to segue on Councillor Holmes. I think this is phenomenal where with the coalition, where if you have an art opening, it's on the calendar. You have a train robbery, it's on the calendar. You have live music at a winery, it's on the calendar. And it's phenomenal to envision a one-stop for people to see actually what's happening in the town. So congratulations on the getting this started up. I think it's going to work very well for us, very well for the municipality and the coalition. So thank you.
Thank you, Doug. We agree. That's the language we use too. One-stop shop for cultural events, and at level of playing field. Like I say, we're not stepping on each other's toes anymore. This we had lined up with Marty. You'll get a kick out of this. We envisioned this so much time ago being a piece of this of the signage down at the school that we talked about some time ago, right? There's the one-stop arts and cultural calendar, and many other things. I bet it's right there at the center of town. We'll find a way to do that.
And Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm hoping we'll find a way to get that accomplished one day. But so how do you envision, I'm a tourist, I'm coming through Kelowna, West Kelowna, now I'm in Beach Landon, and geez, I wonder what's going on in that little town of Summerland. I'm not very computer savvy, but, is there a way, will there be if I hit Summerland, will it automatically bring me to this location possibly, and all of a sudden I can see, there is music at a winery, there is a train robbery, and I think I'll pull in here into this community.
So there's two ways we can do that. I'll let Callum speak to the technology. The other way is through creative partnerships and sponsorships rather. So Wall Lake Drive, they'll be hosting this on all their links, as will Waterfront, as will Dave Price Day, because I know Dave since we're 15, so he's going to link it there as well for us. And then other places that affect. So there's that networking of travel, subcultural travelers that will find it in all the places they're looking at to stay. And then I'll let you speak to tech.
Yeah, for sure. So with respect to tech, there's a lot of opportunities in marketing, specifically social media advertisements. As I'm sure some of you understand, as invasive as it may be, you can really target people extremely well using platforms such as Facebook. And so if we're able to attain revenue or funding adequate to pursue marketing campaigns, we could target people that say are looking at Kelowna as a tourist destination and advertise this website. And so they could discover it through those means, as well as Dan mentioned, partnerships with just various communities perhaps, or even other organizations within Summerland.
I mean, thank you. Just adding to this, like, I'm just thinking of, you know, and tell me if I'm way out left field here, because I probably am, but we live in such a large agricultural community, and we have such fabulous fruit stands and things like that. Like, yes, these are, you know, to me, those are destinations also, possibly for people to want to stop. But, you know, is that can you envision that as part of this to some degree, or could they create a group that then would join your organization to be able to be on a calendar?
That's a very good question, Marty. Karen, is there another document available to me there?
On your presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have, in fact, would you like to join the coalition first of all? Come and
Definitely will. And, you know, farmers markets and other.
Yeah, no,
markets.
absolutely. We're all over that.
Are you wanting your?
There is not the PowerPoint, there's a 2-pager that I sent. One has a list of what Marty's alluding to, which is a very comprehensive list of what's available out there in the marketplace. We're open to that. The task force, as Doug mentioned, we took a very broad understanding or view of what culture was, to include things like some things you mentioned. And we have a list of that. It's not there.
It's a part of the agenda package, so it is attached
Okay,
to.
so you have it.
Yes.
Great. So you'll see it's a very comprehensive list of, and it's our ambition to connect to those folks and invite them into the process. So the calendar may become quite busy at that point. The only one thing we would ask of you guys is that you would link our calendar site to your site. The chamber will do so, Bottleneck Drive, Waterfront, and so on. You know, it's a fairly benign thing to do, but the benefits are really there. So to paraphrase, yes, we're small right now, but it's our intention to, once we've got that critical mass well managed, reach out and start to grow.
Thank you.
Councillor Barklow?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thinking about this calendar, let's say I'm familiar with it and I have it bookmarked and I might look now and then to see what events there are. Will there be a functionality to click on an event and have it added? Because my light's in my phone, and if it's not in my phone, I probably won't make it to that event.
Yeah, for sure. So as it is right now, the calendar has a link on it with each event to the location and time. And so most phones, when you click on a link that mentions time or location, they'll just automatically go to your calendar. And so that functionality is sort of built in by default, if you will. So if there are events that are at a physical location, and the organizers have chosen to provide that location, you should be able to just click on the location and it'll allow you to create an event in your calendar.
Thank you.
You can't go wrong by having a bunch of smart. That's.
To make you look good, Dan.
Yeah, they shine for sure. I've asked. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions if council. This is also another technical question. And it comes along nicely after what Councillor Barklow just asked you. Are you going to be creating a Summerland Cultural Coalition app?
So that's an interesting question. It really comes down to what different or additional functionality we could gain from an app. Especially considering how expensive an app is to develop, we would need significant funding and sufficient reason to do that. I don't personally see a tremendous gain from that. Sorry, Dan?
Tell them what Andrew's.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, the
He's smart.
functionality in an app, the problem with building an app for a similar purpose, which I imagine that's sort of what you're imagining, would be a calendar app or...
Not necessarily a calendar app. But you know how if you go on to eventbrite.ca and you register or get tickets or whatever for an event, there's also an Eventbrite app that you can use. You can scan your ticket and it sends reminders, all that kind of stuff. That actually was what I was referring to.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that there's definitely an opportunity to do that. And we haven't necessarily pursued a similar app because we haven't so much gotten into the, I guess you could say, business of selling tickets. So that is definitely something that we've discussed at length and intend to integrate to our platform. And in that case, then, yeah, absolutely, an app like that is certainly, you consider it down the line.
So way of generating revenue, if you just have like an admin fee on top of a ticket. That's just one thought. And my other thing is more of a comment. And I think it's really exciting to hear, and this is something that Dan said, really exciting to hear that over time, you'll be able to monitor and quantify the amount of spending that is done in the arts and cultural, realm in Summerland, because we hear about it a lot, but it takes a lot for that message to get out there about the value, the economic, but also the social value of having these events in Summerland. And we're pretty good at putting events on here, so thank you so much for that. Is there any other question? Anybody? All right. So could I have somebody receive this for information? I don't see a resolution, but we probably should do that. Councillor Holmes, Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? Thank you. Thanks for your time. That was a great update.
Thank you for your time, and any significant new developments will come before you and share that with you as well. Likewise, any insights from your perspective, you've got a more holistic view of things than we do. You know how to reach us. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for your time, you guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day and evening.
And so, Karen, will you have the information in order to link to the website as it is now, the calendar?
Yeah, we would ask that you send the information to the corporate officer, and then we can make the arrangements from there.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Unless somebody has registered since then, I don't have any information about anybody waiting in line to speak. No. Okay, good. We'll go on to item 7, the first of our business items. 7.1, Ice and Talk Outlet Pipe Replacement Project Update. And we'll give a moment for the staff to get organized.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So today we're just here to give an update on the Eisentalk Dam low-level outlet pipe replacement project, which includes the widening of the spillway and feasibility and I guess a community need to raise the dam. Back in 2018, Council directed staff to proceed with detailed design with considerations to raising it. Design assignment was awarded to KWL in 2019, and with options that they'll discuss further in the presentation. So moving forward, currently we're looking at replacement of the low-level outlet in 2021. The design is currently complete. We will during the time or during the excavation of that project, the intent is to retrieve additional soil information in order to help make determinations of the feasibility of the raise of the dam. 2021-22 The idea is to design spillway upgrade and then construct that project in 2022. And then beyond that, 2023, if feasible, we may look to design the raise of the dam and then plan to construct it sometime in the future, sometime when the funds are available through grant or other, or perhaps such time as there's a greater need for that additional water volume. So we've got a few presenters here today. Got Claude Brasco from Agro Consulting, and Dwayne Meredith and Peter Farron from Irwin Bedell. So Bob, most of you are familiar with him. He's been involved in our water system for many years, currently updating the water master plan. And Dwayne and Peter both are very familiar and experienced with our watershed and many of our dams. They are lead engineers on this design assignment. They will be talking about the design process and next steps. But Bob will start speaking about the district water supply capacity and how it relates to Eisenbach Dam.
Thank you, Devin. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I've been watching your water supply, I think now for almost 20 years. And you've got one of the strongest water resources in Trout Creek and back up with Garnet and the Ennis Creek source in the Okanagan Valley. So Summerland's in a very fortunate supply with your water supply. This image right now on the screen are your two watersheds, Trout Creek and Ennis Creek. The Ennis Creek is the Garnet system, 56 square kilometers of watershed above the north end of town. And then the Trout Creek with Thirsk in the middle of the, just below the Trout Creek where it's there, that really helped. The district made some very good decisions in raising that dam and storing water behind the main stem of the creek. You divert water above town at the Summerland Reservoir. Eisenbach is there in the south bottom part of the screen. It is an important reservoir to Summerland because it's a very high one, very reliable supply, and it's also the closest one to town. So staff, when they need to get water quickly into town or make quick adjustments, that's the water that they have storage for that has the shortest journey to the intake. So if there's an issue where they've got to adjust something for fisheries or operations, they go to Eisenbach. It's the closest and quickest to get the water into town. In terms of supply and growth, there's sort of two areas that are changing with how water is being supplied in the valley. The growth in the total amount of water that the district supplies has not increased in the last 10 years. It's actually decreased because of the tightening with irrigation controls and metering and good education, lots of good work that Summerland's contributed to with the Basin Board and the Make Water Work program. The population is growing slowly. The demand on the population for indoor use is very small comparatively to the outdoor use. So this right here is a graph. The yellow bars show from back in the late 70s to 1987 to 1993, 94, 2003, 1998 was another hot year. Those are all the higher bars those years on the graph. And you can see recently what's happened is there's way more bars that we're recording these days. That's because we're tracking the irrigation water out of the Summerland system. We're tracking what goes through the treatment plant at the Summerland system. We're tracking what comes down from Garnet. And the staff are doing a good job recording the total volumes. And you can see it's starting to stabilize sometime in the future, depending on agriculture and the demands of agriculture. Those bars might start increasing again. We don't know. They are in other parts of the valley where there's more demand now with private cherry growers and vineyards that
they're now asking for water again. We've seen expansion in agriculture in other communities. So in terms of your water sources, this is just data that's out of the master plan on the reliability of the sources. And you can see the third line down, Eisenbach Reservoir. The total actual storage at the dam is 1,384 megaliters, but you have more licensing than that. You actually have 1,600 megaliters of licensing at that. So that's just accounting between the province and what's actually built. And there's lots of dams around the countryside that the licensing is actually more or a little bit less than what's actually built. So our estimates for that watershed at that elevation are that there's actually 2.5 times as much runoff up there. There's 3,500 megaliters of runoff, we think, from that watershed. So if there are considerations of raising the dam, then that should be considered, because what's happening, I sit on a reservoirs committee for the Yukon Basin Board. We have all the dam safety officers, the different consultants, the specialists that deal with dams in the region. And one of the things to consider with all of your dams is to build new sites in new locations is going to be very difficult in the future. So you should be looking to your existing sites if you're going to consider raising them in the future, because the footprint's already mostly disturbed. You'd be working on the perimeter and the area of an already developed site. So that's the First Nations concerns. They don't want to see more damage of the environment. They do want more water for fish and for environmental flow needs in the lower streams for fish spawning. So if storage expansion is going to happen, it's likely going to be at existing sites. So in terms of increased water demands, residential demand and population-driven increases in demand is going to be very small. Agriculture is a much larger impact if and when it does happen. Right now, the cherry growers in the vineyards are moving from 650 meters, 700 meter elevation. They're building into the band that's between 600 meters and 1,000 meters. They've got cherry crops in Washington State that are up at 1,100 meters. So you can expect, and they're making money on cherries. So I think I said some of this last year, I think, when we presented, but it's happening. We've got lots of expansion in Kelowna for cherry orchard, even though it's a bad year for cherries.
Councillor Van Alphen?
Okay, if we ask questions as we go along?
Sure.
With agriculture, like you say, cherries and vineyards, like with the amount of apple trees coming out in the old plantings, is that not less water consumption?
But they're being replaced, a lot of those.
Yes, with vineyards or
cherries, yeah.
Or cherries, but
Primarily.
Vineyards compared to apples is a lot less water consumption.
Vineyards would be less, yes, it'd be 14 inches versus 24 inches. So you've got savings there, definitely. Yeah, I agree. It's a function of what the market's going to drive and what the growers are going to plant. So what happens when we plan the water systems, though, is we try to look at the recommendations from the province. They've got a very nice piece of technology that they've released. It's an agricultural water calculator. You can go to any parcel in the province and see what the agricultural water demand is based on the topography, the climate, the crop you want to plant, the soils that are there. You punch in those parameters, it'll give you an estimate. And for Summerland, it's in the 700 millimeter range, even though we allocate 800, to make sure that you have enough for pretty well any crop you want to grow here.
Thank you.
So the target lands where expansion could happen is 600 to 800 meters. And what's happening is these farmers that are progressive, they're not corporate farms, they're large scale family farms that are expanding. Probably have a few families here in Summerland like that. Oh yes, I see. So yeah, we highlighted some of the lands where the topography was relatively flat, like below 15% grades, and in that elevation band, and we could find 2,700 acres that were some of it is not in the city boundaries, but it's nearby. So, in the long-term planning, that that's what we're looking at in terms of setting aside storage in the future and making sure that you're positioned well to, not have. I think one of the things you have to think about with Summerland too is to make sure you have control of the water, meaning not having all sorts of water suppliers and competing interests on the streams. Because if you've got more people trying to build storage and sending water into your streams, it creates a lot of confusion. And if you're the supplier for this watershed, you're in a good, strong position to actually service everything properly, look after it properly. So why Eisentalk in terms of raising it is it's the high elevation, the yield is strong, and you could stage the expansion and the works on Eisentalk. I think I already talked about the points on the slide.
Bob, just one question
Sure.
from Councillor Holmes. Thank you.
This might be something more for Devin, but servicing land that's outside the municipal boundaries, is there anything that we do now? Do we service any land outside the municipal
We don't
boundaries?
currently, there's been a couple properties that have come into the district boundary. But yeah, potentially there could be some that are looking for that, for water that are outside the boundaries.
And do we have any sort of policy of that they would have to come within the municipal boundaries, or do we have any policy of supplying water outside our municipal boundaries?
Right, and so that was sort of the intent in the past was to ensure that they came within municipal boundaries to receive servicing of whether it was water, electricity, but that's not something that we have written in place. So I would see that coming forward probably quite a bit in the future.
Thanks.
Okay, carrying on here, thank you. One of the things with the supply too that we considered, and it's addressed in the master plan that's coming, is whether to expand reservoir storage or should you actually be, you've got licensing on Okanagan Lake, and should you be developing that source? And what's happened in the last 3 years is there's this cycle now, it seems like, of early spring flooding, and then we go through a very dry season of a month and a half or 2 months where everything goes tinder dry, and then we have forest fires. And if that were to happen to a greater extent in Trout Creek, then there isn't enough water well, put it this way, you'd be very challenged as a utility with just garnet and trying to make enough clean water for the domestic and have enough water for the agriculture. There would be losses to the agricultural community huge if you were to lose the whole bigger part of Trout Creek watershed. So the resiliency and the adaptation that we all talk about with the global warming issues, having more water sources that have significant capacity is something that we're recommending for Summerland. So the lake source, actually, in developing it, would also take a lot of demand off the water treatment plant, and you would save costs that way as well. So on this graph, this is the Trout Creek delta, I guess you would call it. And the little yellow line that's off the point is the location we had identified at Powell Beach for the intake. It goes down to 35-meter depth. And then the idea is that the whole lower bench could be supplied with raw water or, just disinfected water, not filtered, but treated in a very cost-effective manner and then fed to that whole lower bench. If you take that demand off the treatment plant, that would reduce your treatment plant flows from 65 megaliters a day down to probably in the range of 55 to 50. So you'd have an operating cost long-term that's a lot cheaper to pump it to one zone than it is to treat. So there are benefits in going this direction. So, in terms of recommendations that are coming from the master plan are that you do have enough water and you've got it in good places. It's a cost-effective system right now, but one of the things that we think that is useful to do, and this is one of those things that do you invest money in a lake intake or do you invest it in raising the dam? there is enough water. You don't need to raise the dam at this stage, but you do have things in the dam that you do have to fix with dam safety. And that's, from my point of view, yeah, you have to do something with this dam. It's inevitable, and there is the potential to raise it. So it's how to work that through so you can stage this work so that when you do need the additional increases in the future, you can do it. So I think that sort of summarizes what I have as slides, and I can answer any questions.
Councillor Buckland?
Yeah, but just on the Toe Creek option, what are the standards for the water treatment? We have two treatments in the treatment plant here. Does the province or the federal government allow just, chlorination or something for lake water?
Well, there's several utilities right now in the Okanagan, like City of Kelowna, Glenmore Allison Improvement District, and they do not have filtration on their lake water, but they're at a depth where the water quality is quite good, and they just use ultraviolet disinfection and chlorine. And that's all that they're required to do. They have to make sure the source is of good quality though, so they have to analyze the lake and lake currents. And Summerland has retained Lorette Consulting, and they have a report as well that's almost finished, I think, on the lake, on the Powell Beach Lake for filtration to Perot on that source. So it's viable here. The other thing too is you can just pump the water straight out of the lake through your municipal system that's just irrigation only. And there are no requirements for adding chlorine or for just agriculture irrigation on potable water.
Our system is not separated into a creek, is it?
No.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, that was kind of my question, is for Truck Creek, do we envision it just being used untreated for agricultural, or is it supposed to be for Truck Creek? And then, of course, there's two different investments there. And the second part of my question, if it's for irrigation only, is it feasible to get it up over the bluffs to use it for agricultural land up above?
Those are good questions. What I foresee for Truck Creek is that you do run it through a UV and chlorine system. Do not add filtration in the future. So that if you do need the Trout Creek lake source because something happens to Trout Creek itself, that yes, we take it to the base of the bluff, and we have a pump station at the base of the bluff, and you send it up to the reservoir that's at the, I can't remember the name of the road.
Yeah, on Happy Valley Road, or the Hillborn.
And it needs to be pumped from there to get it to the treatment plant, but it's basically two sets of lifts because of the height that you have to do, but it would give you enough for domestic source year-round, but not enough for the agriculture. But it does, it's a strong source, probably equivalent to the volumes that you can get from Garnet Valley.
Could I just ask for clarification? When you said it would be enough water there for domestic year-round, do you mean domestic for all of Summerland year-round?
I mean the indoor water use, meaning if
Yes.
something goes terribly wrong with Trout Creek, you still
Yes.
have a source that is all your potable water. So your community health and well-being is in good order.
So all of Summerland, not just the Trout Creek region? Okay,
It needs the pumping though to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you said earlier with, what we've been experiencing is high water levels, dry months through the summer. These high water levels, do you envision that we would have to do some work at Garnet Valley Reservoir to help mitigate the flooding that we've experienced over the last bunch of years? Would that help if we could control the water, hold it back longer?
The issue with Garnet is the restrictive channel all the way down through town. Right, so it's the spillway. They want us to oversize the spillway is what dam safety has told us. That's great, we can oversize it. We still have this restriction going all the way through town that, is more of a concern than that. So I think Sean has been operating the dam at reduced levels every year, so he's pre-releasing to just balance the creek. And it's working so far, so.
So ultimately, we should be looking at a complete dredge program to clean out that creek to receive more volume at certain times?
It's bigger than that actually, because you run it down behind the A&W, it's between houses,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
that kind of restriction that you have. So it's an operating parameter, and then, if you get that major 1 in a 200 year or 1 in 500 year storm, and the reservoir's already starting full, like Okanagan Lake did in 2017, then you're evacuating houses back from the channel. So the secret is to keep it at lower elevations and have less use out of the dam for the time being. Thank you.
Any other questions? Have you reached the end of your, oh, it looks like you have the end of your,
Okay, thanks, Bob. So we'll bring Blaine Meredith forward.
Thank you, Your Worship, councillors. So now we're going to dive right into the Eisentalk Dam low-level outlet replacement. I think we first brought this presentation to your attention almost just over a year ago. And on today's agenda, we'll go through a little bit of the introduction and the background, just to have it in mind. The project scope, the work that's been completed to date, and then some of the design details, which my coworker Peter will be presenting, and some of the challenges that we've had going through that process. So you probably recall the dam was originally constructed in the 20s. It's been significantly updated in 1959. It's the embankment fill. The embankment fill is made of local materials with an extremely high sand content. And if you've walked across that dam, you can see that sand just as you're walking. The existing outlet has leaked for years, and previous attempts to remedy that has not worked. There's significant concern around the fill around the dam and around the existing outlet pipe and the potential shape that that's in. So with the increasing regulatory considerations that Bob had mentioned, probably best to replace that old aged concrete pipe with something a little bit more modern and something that's going to meet the specifications for today and going forward. Along with that, the spillway, while it's worked well in the past, is considerably undersized compared to today's regulatory environment, and that's also a consideration. We've talked about the linkage then to the water master plan and the need for raising. So when we were brought on, we were asked to look at 3 different options. Option 1 was replace the low-level outlet pipe, upgrade the spillway, and reconstruction of the embankment to maintain the existing storage within the reservoir. Option 2 was replace the low-level outlets, upgrade the spillway, maintain the existing storage, but make provisions for future raise. And then option 3 was replace the low-level outlet, upgrade the spillway, increase the storage capacity in consideration of a potential 1, 2, or 3 meter raise. At that time, we were then directed by council to proceed with option 3, the 3 meter raise on the order of $3.5 million. So we jump ahead now as we've gone through the detailed design with the drawings for the outlet replacement. We've tightened those costs down to a cost opinion, and we've also prepared a master municipal documents tender package So there's contract documents, specifications, other specific conditions, and then a drawing set that take along with that. I'll pass it over to Peter to explain some of the specifics on the design.
Good afternoon and thank you. This is a pretty unique project. In the old days, they used a lot of concrete pipe for low-level outlets. We proposed using high-density polyethylene in this case because they're seamless, there's no joints. And part of the problem with the existing pipe is the joints were separating and causing some of that leakage. So this should eliminate that problem in the future. The pipe is also flexible, which is nice when you're piling lots of dirt on top, 9.5 meters in this case. So there is some give to the pipe, and it won't crack like concrete would, or steel might deflect and crack also. One of the unique things we're employing in this is a breather pipe, it's called. And I don't know if you've heard of the term gulping in a pipe, but when you start filling a pipe full of water and it doesn't have connection to atmosphere, it can start to gulp, and then it'll start to thump, and it really can destroy structures really fast. So we've employed that breather pipe in this structure. We've also installed a conduit for future water instrumentation. One of the things we've talked to Devin about over the years is an early warning system that dam safety would like to see. And this would be a level sensor that would tell you when your reservoir is either too high, too low, something odd is happening to it, and then staff can get up and do what they have to do. We have prepared the IFT drawing set. So that at this point is just the replacement of the low-level outlet in 2 new structures, an inlet structure and an outlet structure. But once the trench is open, we're proposing further geotechnical investigation to check out the foundation. And this foundation investigation will direct us then whether the raise is possible. At this point, we think we can do the raise, but the geotech engineers have raised enough concerns about the strength of the foundation to take that additional fill. So once that trench is open, and you can see that on the drawing there, where it's going to be a benched trench down through there. We'll get the drilling equipment in there and we'll investigate the foundation. And then once that is done, they will proceed to their design to look at the potential raise. In the meanwhile, we'll backfill that trench and then reinstitute the erosion protection on the front face of the dam. That is not there right now. I think we designed that in 2013 or 14, somewhere there. So at this point, several geotechnical items could not be resolved. And one of them was the trench stability. Once we excavate that trench, as Dwayne said, this is a sand embankment. And when you start cutting back sand, you want to make sure that geometry is right so it doesn't start to unravel, especially if you got workers down in the bottom of the trench. So that was one of the big concerns, and we have built right into the specification that the contractor is responsible for his own geotechnical engineer. But he's the one that's building it, and he has to work with his engineer to design that properly, so it's safe. The other thing that we were having an issue with is getting suitable backfill around the pipe. Right now, the backfill around the pipe is just the natural embankment material, the sand. We wanted to make sure that that material was a little better, so we're going for a high fines material, so that a little bit more clay in it to give it some strength. And at the last third of the pipe, we actually have a drain collar around the entire pipe that will reduce any hydrostatic pressure on the embankment. And so it'll be designed to release that water pressure downstream. And then once we do this geotechnical investigation, then we'll know if we have the foundation capable of withstanding that 3-meter raise. Is there any questions?
Councilor Barfoot?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It seems to me that the water that's flowing through the dam is more of a concern than the fact that it actually goes into the pipe, isn't it? Like,
Yes.
The fact that it went into the pipe is perhaps even a good thing.
It is actually, but you never want water flowing on the outside of a pipe. Because that leads to piping and loss of material and eventually collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're going to replace the material that's close to the pipe, how do we know there isn't water flowing through other areas of the dam? And
There might well be, and there are tow drains in the dam right now. Okay, and if you go to the outlet structure, you can see the outlets of those tow drains. And they pick up the phreatic surface. The phreatic surface is your water line through the embankment. Okay, and they will intercept that and pull that phreatic surface down to the drain, and then that drain leads that off.
so
we
it
will,
doesn't get a chance to form into a big channel that
Exactly.
becomes, okay.
yeah, exactly. And we will reinstitute those drains when the trench is open and start to backfill. Those drains will be reconnected. So,
But we do have a few seepage points in different dams where they're saturated, and staff inspect them weekly. Bring stuff like what's just occurred in Headwaters 1. We had to include additional amount of material to put in place. So it does happen.
one of the things we talked about at the last council presentation was the new spillway, and that's what the dam safety officer is recommending. But we're in a chicken and egg situation. If we want to build the spillway now, that kind of precludes the raise that you do, because if you're going to raise the dam 3 meters, then you have to raise the spillway 3 meters. So it's kind of lost money if you build it now and then you decide you're going to raise the dam 3 meters. But we also can't build the spillway 3 meters higher now if you can't raise the dam. So that's where we are at this point. And that's why we're recommending this geotechnical investigation to decide once and for all if we can actually raise the dam or not. If we can raise the dam, then we raise the spillway and then we proceed. The other issue is that if you decide not to raise the dam because you don't need the water, but it's possible to raise the dam, where do we build the spillway? Because you have to build the spillway. Dam safety is going to be all over all of us if we don't do that. So if it's possible to raise the dam, you decide you don't need to raise it, do you build the spillway at the current level? You almost have to, because if you build it 3 meters higher, it's not going to operate. So that might be lost money as well at that point.
I'm not sure how the geotechnical information comes back, but there was included in option 3, 1, 2, or 3 meter raise. Would it show, yes, it could the foundation could bear a 1.5 or 2 meter raise, but not 3? I'm not sure. Is that kind of information what would come out of the extra geotechnical work?
Yes, we would go through that analysis, or the geotechnical engineer would go through that analysis, and we do a bit of a sensitivity analysis. If it won't take 3, will it take 2.5? Can it take 2? You know, I would expect that they would do that, right?
And then you would build the spillway to, yeah.
According, if we can get away with 2 meters, then we'll raise the spillway 2 meters. Yeah.
Okay.
But the issue still is, if you have to build a spillway soon
Yes,
for dam safety,
yes.
where do you build it? So we've kind of put them off saying, let's wait and get this done. Let's get the geotech done, and then we can make that decision. If it's not possible to raise the dam, it's an easy decision. And, you know, you build the spillway where it is right now to that level. If it's possible to raise the dam, then you have another decision. Right? So.
Councillor Barco?
Last time you presented, you spoke about how it might be kind of expensive to expand the spillway because you've got to widen it there and everything.
Yeah.
Is that still cheaper than, say, building a concrete spillway over the existing dam?
We believe so, because the existing dam is sand, and it's not the greatest foundation. Okay, and the concern would be erosion under the structure, right? Where you have the spillway now is almost ideal because it's away from that sand embankment. Right? There's a lot of earthwork to be done there. I don't know if you've been out there, but it's about a 4 meter wide base. We need to make that at least 8 and perhaps 11 meters wide if we go to the raise. Okay, so that's a big cut through there.
Maybe it can be used to raise the dam.
There's no shortage of sand material out there. Yeah.
Councillor Carlson?
Thank you. My question, it might be for Mr. Harasco, but perhaps you know the answer. A refresher, is Eisentalk, we're talking about doing this on Eisentalk, not just because we need to reduce the spillway, but also because it would be the best bang for our buck in order to raise a dam and have more capacity. There's no other dams that we have coming at us in the next couple of years that would be easier to raise, perhaps.
Well, the one issue is you have to fix the pipe anyway. Okay, that's a given. Raising the dam is really back to water.
Because I know we chose Eisentalk because we're doing this, but I just wonder is, Garnet or something, and there's other dams, would that have been another
There's a
option?
long list of possible dams for Summerland. We have a huge watershed, so there isn't anything in the top 20 projects that is a dam expansion project, because you have enough with thirst expansion. So it's the next dam expansion as well. It's out there.
So if this comes back and we shouldn't raise it because of the foundation, I understand it's not an issue right now, but there's potential down the line in potentially at a different dam that
Yes,
was
there
built
are
back.
other sites. Yes.
Particularly those that will fill more likely than others, or ideal candidates.
The one other thing that we should mention is if the raise is possible and we go ahead with it, one of the things I was concerned about is we're gonna put new riprap on the front face. And in normal construction procedures, you raise a dam from the front. That's just the common practice. But that would mean losing all the riprap you've put in there already and double handling and all that stuff. So we went back to the geotech and said, okay, what are our options? Can we raise it from the backside? And so he's come up with a plan to raise it from the backside if that's possible, without moving the outlet structure. One of the things we had expected to have to do is extend the outlet structure to get that new slope in, to get the 3 meters. He's changed the slope slightly and done a stability analysis on a preliminary stage that that's possible. Again, that's another reason for more of this geotechnical investigation. Again, to check the foundation. Is it going to be stable with that 3 meter raise? Is it going to be stable with the 3-to-1 back slope?
Councillor Patton, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, but I believe my question was just asked. Because this is all going to hinge on geotechnical reports based on the structure once you get in doing the new inlet pipe.
Yes.
And so the expanded spillway might not even come into play. Well, it'll have to be expanded.
Yes.
But to go to an extreme, if we were to raise it 3 meters, really wouldn't even be coming into play because we wouldn't be able to do it anyways based on if the geotechnical came back saying that you just don't have the structure to support the additional 10 feet.
That's right.
Thank you.
Councillor Barco?
Last time we talked about this, we also spoke about there's going to be a LiDAR survey done to get detail on the elevations and the possibility where you might have to build a weir at the back, which would be, of course, more cost.
Yep.
Do we have that information now?
Yes, and it's done, and we do need a weir at the back.
How high would that be?
It's not very high. I think it was only 2 meters just to cut it. It's just a little cutoff dike. Right at the, I don't have a plan, but it's right at the south end. And the land kind of goes up and does that. And if we raise it that 3 meters, it's enough to spill south. So it'll just be a little cutoff dike with a one-way inlet structure. So it'll let water in, but not out.
Not terribly expensive then.
It's like a tide gate, you know what tide gates are? No, okay. When the tide comes up, water can't get in. The rain behind the embankment, when the tide's down, water can get in.
Tide gate.
That tide.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So my biggest concern, if we went forward with this and the geotech all played out the way we want it to, and I know we have to repair the pipe regardless, and then we go with the increase of capacity, the height. You know, my issue is like, we could have a bunch of drought years in the future.
Yeah.
And there's demands by the government for us to release water, to maintain fish flows or what have you, or to make sure there's water going south.
Mhm.
But it's the residents of Summerland at this point in time that are looking at the $3 point something million.
Right.
So my only, I guess it's more of a comment than anything. That's why I think the government, grants and things like that are, I think applicable in this situation because it shouldn't be all borne by the residents of Summerland.
If they keep changing the rules, they should pay for it.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, you said if they want water to go south, that means back out the top end, right?
Well, I mean, down Trail Creek.
So that would be a matter then of just changing the structure. Okay, so you could release water that way if you had that 3-meter raise.
Okay, thank you.
There's a couple more slides.
Okay. Let's see. So we prepared an invitation tender package with a Class A cost estimate. That's a 15% contingency on that. And I don't think I need to say this, but this is for council and staff only. We didn't prepare this to be shared. But I think it's going to be shared, right? It's on camera. I don't have to show the slide. It's up to you guys.
Well, I think when it's in council agenda, is it not already public?
It is.
Yeah.
It is? Okay, okay. That's good ammunition for a bidder. That's all. So here's what we've come up with for Class A estimate. For construction, it's $1.5 million. For engineering, which includes the additional geotechnical work, once the trench is open, is $260,000. And environmental, which is predominantly a fish salvage operation, because you have to lower the reservoir and you're not allowed to leave the fish trapped in the reservoir, for a total of $1.8 million. Okay. Any more questions? Please answer.
Sir, just so council's aware, there's $2 million in the 2021 budget proposed for this work.
Okay.
Just Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Barfoot.
So this cost opinion is just for replacing the pipe, it's not for raising at all. It's
That's
just
correct.
its current level. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The raise was the $3.5 million. And the spill. And the spiller, sorry.
So, okay, that sort of was my question as well. And then I'm thinking, okay, at some point, then we get another estimate for the rest of the work once we know better what.
Yes.
And it'll be somewhere in the ballpark of $1.5 million, maybe we can figure.
That's what we're hoping, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, once the geotech gets that information and does a stability and seepage analysis, then we can fine tune that.
And we can make a decision.
Exactly.
All right, thank you.
That's the decision point actually for this, all of this, is the results of the geotech.
Councillor Holmes.
But then just following on to that and to Councillor Van Elfen's point, I think this gives us some sort of ammunition, if you will, to be able to go to the province and say, okay, well, we have to spend 1.8 million. But in order, if you want us to be able to provide some security for further down the valley and fish and everything like that, we could help. We could do this, and you could. I think that's a good argument to make to the province for potential funding for the rest of the program.
And I did speak to Rod McLean in Victoria at Dam Safety last week, and he did suggest that they have been talking to both federal and province about the potential for funding for some of these types of projects. He doesn't know exactly when it'll come out. It sounds like fairly soon, and it may come directly through Flynn Road. So we're waiting on more info on that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. So council, could I have someone bring this forward, oops, I'm on the wrong agenda, for information? Councillor Patton and Councillor Barfoot. All in favor? Great.
I would just add, Madam Mayor, that
Yes.
thanks for the presentation. I understand it much better now from your presentation than from just reading the material.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Barkle. The Dale Meadows irrigation upgrades, are you doing that, Anthony, or is,
I'll go and see if Chris is.
yeah, I saw him out there earlier. Oh.
Or you want me here?
Oh, there he is.
Afternoon. I'm just here to look for some funds for the irrigation upgrades at Bill Meadows ball field. For the report, the system is aging and we see more and more failures. It's getting hard to get a hold of parts. So hoping that you guys will let us start the work pretty soon here. Approve some additional funds, which unfortunately were never increased since it was originally introduced.
So you're looking at increasing to 72,000 from 50?
That's correct. That equates to about 7.5% inflation from the moment it was introduced. Still when Brenda Ingram was the manager at the time.
So council, having had the chance to read the agenda, are there any questions coming out of that for Martin? Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you. So is this a project we're gonna be doing, or will subcontract this out?
It will be contracted out, yes.
Councillor Carlson.
I'll move the motion as presented if no one else has a question.
Did you have a question?
I was going to move the motion.
Okay, perfect. So seconded by Councillor Barkle. Any further discussion? Councillor Barkle.
Being very familiar with the frustrations of working on old irrigation systems, I certainly will be supporting this.
That's very true. All right, no other questions? So I'll call the question. All in favor? That was easy, wasn't it, Martin?
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, on to 7.3, Development Services, Subdivision Approving Officer. And is this coming, I'm not sure who's presenting this. Is that you, Karen? Or, yes, or Brad?
I think it will be the Director of Development Services.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. So the report is pretty self-explanatory. We've got some personnel changes that have happened recently in the Development Services Department. One being me in this role, and also Anthony Dunn moving on after this meeting, moving back to the city. So recommendation is to basically remove Anthony as a deputy subdivision approving officer, and then appoint myself as the district's approving officer for any future subdivisions.
All right. Councillor Barkwood?
Will you have a deputy then?
Not right now, but that's something we can identify perhaps moving forward with the new CEO, perhaps in that role. Something that I can probably discuss at a later date with Karen about who would be best fit for deputy.
Okay, Councillor Trainer?
I was going to bring this forward unless anyone else had any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll bring it forward as presented.
And Councillor Van Alphen is seconding. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item 7.4. Thank you, Brad. I'll just give you time to try musical chairs here. Seven point 4 is EV charger fees and a presentation from Tammy.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, nice to see you all. The District of Summerland has owned and operated 3 level 2 electric vehicle charging stations since 2013. Now, level 2s are what we call slow chargers. They typically take 2 to 3 hours to fully recharge a vehicle. That can be more or less depending on the type of vehicle and, of course, how charged the battery is when the driver pulls up to charge. As you know, the District of Summerland has been awarded funding from the federal and provincial governments to expand our EV charging network by creating several charging hubs throughout the community at locations as per Council's decision in September of 2019. Specifically, we'll be adding 16 additional level 2 stations and 6 level 3 or fast charging stations. Fast charging stations typically take about 20 to 30 minutes for a full charge. As the first location or hub at Memorial Park will become operational this month, and staff are preparing our detailed 2021 budgets and the corresponding updates to the fees and charges bylaw, staff are seeking Council's direction as it relates to fees at these stations. Following today's discussion, staff will utilize the direction of Council to draft changes to the fees and charges bylaw for your consideration as part of the annual update of that bylaw that becomes effective January 1st. In your packages, options for each type of station, both level 2 and 3, are presented for your consideration. I'll quickly summarize the information presented and the options for both, and then take questions and turn the discussion over to you. For the level 2s, 3 options have been presented. For option 1, this is a no fee at any time option. This is the current state and the most common practice across BC. However, it offers no direct revenue opportunity for the district. Option 2 is where the station is free for a set amount of time and then a fee is introduced thereafter. This is becoming a more common approach and is often used in urban areas where there's a high parking demand in order to incentivize drivers to keep moving along. This option does offer some revenue opportunities for the district. Option 3 is to introduce a fee at all times. This is currently the least common approach. However, we are starting to see more and more communities take this approach, including the city of Penticton, which introduced a fee at all time for their stations just last week. This option obviously offers the highest revenue potential for the district, but it may also mean that we see a drop in users as drivers forego stopping in our community and choose to move on to nearby stations that remain free. For the level 3s, 2 options have been presented. Option 1 again is a no fee at any time and again has no revenue potential for the district. This is a relatively uncommon approach, but it is in place at several of what we would call our competitor stations, meaning level 3 stations within 100 kilometers of Summerland. Option 2 is to introduce a fee at all times. The vast majority of level 3 stations in the province use this model, and it offers the best revenue potential for the district. For any option where council wishes to set a fee, staff are recommending wording the bylaw as an up to that dollar amount so that it can be adjusted throughout the year at council's direction as trends change and as data becomes more readily available as our new locations come online. This structure also allows council to set differential rates between locations or seasonally. For example, deciding to set lower fees at locations in town than along the highway, or reducing fees during the holiday shopping season. If council agrees with this approach, staff will bring back an accompanying policy outlining the strategic outcomes and guiding principles of this approach for council's consideration. This policy will provide the framework for council to consider both the direct monetary benefits of the stations, as well as the more difficult to quantify strategic benefits of increasing traffic to commercial areas, reducing greenhouse gas emissions in our community, and attracting visitors and new residents and businesses to the community by continuing to showcase Summerland as a forward-thinking community in balance with technology and the natural environment. Further, if council wishes to set fees and/or time limits for free charging, staff are seeking specific direction on these figures. Recommendations of up to $2 an hour, either at all times or after an initial 3-hour free period for the level 2s, and up to $18 an hour at the level 3s have been included in your package and were used for the financial analysis component of the report. More details on the estimated usage under each scenario and the corresponding expected net revenues are included in your package. I'll also note that staff will be closely monitoring the station's use and will report back any major deviations from the assumptions that we've made to council for your consideration and direction. That concludes my summary, and I'm pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Councillor Barkle?
Well, I wasn't really waving my hand,
Oh.
but I kind of do have one.
Okay.
It's for me. Just, I guess my question is more about the, not the amounts, but this sort of up to concept on fees. We don't have anything else like that, do we? Like, we don't have water rates that are 40 cents a cubic, or up to 40 cents a cubic meter, or electrical rates that are up to $20 a month. Is this really the way that we should be doing something? And doesn't it, the rate have to be set by bylaw?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I will let Tammy respond because we did have this discussion and we did note that there will need to be some other document, policy document from council that would further explain kind of what that might look like if council wants to do that. Otherwise, we would set just a strict fee. And Tammy, I'll just let you.
Sure, thanks through the chair. So the Director of Finance, who I wish was here, and I also had this discussion, and I'm getting a message from him now, which so he's clearly watching. Thanks, Dave. So we did talk about this. He'd like me to tell you, water rates kick in at a higher rate once the threshold is met. That's his message. So from my perspective and from the discussion that we had, the rationale behind this is we can absolutely set a strict fee. However, there's less flexibility there. And especially because as the stations are rolling out and we're sort of getting to know how people will be using them, the workload that would create, especially for corporate services in terms of having to come back and do 3 readings of the bylaw each time we want to change it, we felt at least for the initial rollout period, this might provide us with some flexibility to try new things. And then perhaps council would like to set a strict fee in the future without the up to.
If I may, Madam Mayor, just to respond. One of the things we talked about is that if council has a certain objective they want to meet with these funds or with the collection of fees, that's where the policy would come in. So if council is wanting to recoup 10% or a certain amount, then the flexibility that Tammy's talking about would allow that policy to move based on council's desire to reach a certain amount of revenue. So that's where corporate services would see the ability of putting in a fee that's not definitive. If council doesn't have that information yet, then the bylaw with the fee definitely is recommended, and it's not a problem to do, and certainly not a problem to change those fees over the year.
Great, thank you. Councillor Barkle, did you have a follow-up to your first question?
One might, I'll just let, I'm sure there's other questions.
Okay, so Councillor Carlson is next, and then Councillor Holmes, and then Councillor Pat.
Thank you for that information, and I think it's interesting that this came up and it's put on the agenda so quickly based on one person in the community wanting to talk about this. that happen for everybody in our community. We have really busy agenda items, just a comment to staff. So my first question is, has there been consideration given to charging an overnight fee? I have a friend who used an electric car, came to Summerland, and it was going to take 7 hours, 8 hours to charge the car, and so it had to basically be plugged in overnight. Just wondering if that is something that has been talked about. And the other one is that I know Petrocan, they have their whole nationwide charging stations and they charge per minute. And so I'm wondering if that was a conversation as well and why that wouldn't be a recommendation.
Through the chair. So first, just to clarify, it's always been staff's intention to bring this report forward ahead of the fees and charges bylaw in timing with the opening of our new stations at Memorial. So I'll just leave that there. As far as an overnight fee, I'm not sure about the capabilities of the stations to enforce between certain hours, but it's certainly something that we can look into. One of the nice things about the stations that we've selected is the network flexibility is very high, and we're able to customize each individual station, different locations, and make changes very quickly. I can go online today and say these stations are now going to be X or not. And then as far as per minute, we set the rates as a per hour, but it's actually billed per minute. So it's yeah, exactly. But that's just how it's communicated to the community. It's the easiest way to communicate, but it actually shows up as a billing per minute.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes, you're next.
Yeah, thank you. I have, I guess, two questions, one kind of technical and one kind of philosophical. So the technical one, do our existing chargers, do they have the capability of accepting credit cards, and that's how people would pay you, by credit card? Or you would slot in coins?
Thank you, through the chair. Currently, our stations are all dealt with electronically, so they accept either electronic payment directly using a credit card, or electric vehicle charging drivers are often members of certain networks, and so they have a card that they tap and they have an online account that's managed separately from their credit card. But each of our stations have those capabilities built in currently, and the future ones will as well. And there's no, I should also clarify, there's no additional charge or fee for us to activate that capability.
And then just my other question, if I may. So, when the first charges were first put here, maybe Councillor Nelson can let us shed some light, but I guess the thinking was that there's no point in charging fees because the use was so low, and it was all about building that critical mass, to get use. And now that we're starting to see that, we're starting to see a lot of use of these things, then the conversation of having fees starts to make some sense. But as was, I think, suggested by somebody, that really we want to use fees and set fees in order to achieve what our objectives are for having these charging stations. And so has that been discussed, and should we not be talking about what our objectives are for having these stations?
So from staff's perspective, that lies strictly in the hands of council. Of course, philosophy and strategy is your domain. What staff have heard previously when the electric vehicle charging stations were being discussed was a desire from council to utilize the stations as an economic development opportunity to literally drive people into our community. We can see from some of the data that in a 1 year period of 1,100 individual chargers, 400 of those events were from out of town users, for example. So we know that our stations are being utilized both by community members coming into our commercial areas as well as visitors stopping in our community. And what staff have heard in the past was that was one of the driving philosophical points for the station. Now, of course, council is welcome to change direction at any time or provide further clarification around that.
Just follow up on that. So that if that being our objective, how do you map fees onto an objective such as that?
So Through the mayor, first of all, I think council made a strategic decision to locate the stations in order to drive members to our commercial areas. If you'll recall, council, at the time when we were considering applying for this grant, staff brought forward a number of possible locations that included places like Giant's Head, for example, and the direction of council at that time was to remove those from the list and to focus on commercial areas where nearby to local businesses. So that's one step that council's already taken to achieve that strategic objective. In terms of the fees, which is what we're talking about today, an example might be, as I mentioned before, setting a lower rate for stations downtown than along the highway in order to incentivize drivers to come into the commercial areas. That's one example of how you might achieve that strategy.
Okay, Councillor Patton is next, then Councillor Trainer, then Van Elfen, then Barco.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I too was reviewing Petro-Canada's rates at 33 cents a minute, came out for a 30-minute charge at $9.90. One thing that I think that we have to be cognizant of is that whoever pulls up to a gas pump pays a gas tax, and we are recipients of that gas tax. And I think what we need to look at is, granted, they're environmentally friendly electrical vehicles, but they still use our roads. We still pay for our roads, and we still have to do upgrades on our infrastructure. I think if we're going to look at going to a rate that we look at the commercial rates that Petro-Canada is doing, and if staff feels that $18 an hour on a level 3 is good, then we utilize the additional $1.80 per hour, and we put it into an asset management plan that goes back into our reserves for road construction. And we look at maybe on the level 2 chargers, we look at halving that at $9.90 for an hour instead of $2. And we use it as a user pays program that actually will benefit our municipality. We have had a pilot project for 6 years where our citizens of Summerland have paid for power on those charging stations that we have. And I think that times are changing. It is a user pay society in which we live. And I don't think that it's going to deter anybody from plugging in their car at Memorial Park to not come to Summerland, especially if we are not any more expensive than the retail sector is. But that's, when I look at this, I feel that I feel that our costs are way too low, and we will be subsidizing people coming into Summerland. And granted, we're a tourist destination, but on the other hand, we can't have our citizens paying for our visitors that come here. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trainer.
If we were to pick something like of these options today, I realize we've already had a trial period for the last 6 years, but even with this, like, we don't really know exactly how many people are going to be using them and how they're going to be using them, like whether they're going to be using them more on the highway or if they're coming into town and level 2 versus level 3. So if we pick something, could we like set a time limit on that where like in a year or 2 years and we have more data, we can review that again? Is that something that we could do?
Through the chair, of course. Councillor, that's specifically staff's intention, is to continuously monitor the usage of the stations and provide regular reports back to council, which is why we've recommended the flexibility in the bylaw so that we can come and say, you know, we had expected a certain usage that may not be working out the way we thought. Either, you know, people are using them a lot more and perhaps we could try bumping up our fee, for example, or we've seen a drastic reduction and perhaps we need to try lowering it and get your direction so that we can sort of trial different approaches and settle on what council feels is best moving forward.
Okay, and I just have one other question. I think I like option 2, at least for the level 2 chargers, but it recommends that it would be free for the first couple of hours. But if it only takes a vehicle 2 to 3 hours to charge, do you mean here that we would give the first 1 hour free? Because if we're giving the first couple of hours free, and the charge only takes 2 to 4 hours, then they're getting the whole thing for free. So I was just wondering if you could clarify that.
Thanks, Council. If you'll just bear with me while we try to get my laptop some power. So right now, currently what's happening thank you, in our stations and at stations, across the province, we see drivers plugging in and leaving their car there for an entire day, for example, and creating some congestion and some conflict between drivers. So in the situations where this approach is most commonly applied, as I mentioned, they're most commonly areas where parking is an issue, and you want to incentivize drivers to move along once their charging session is complete. It's not necessarily the intention to remove the fee altogether. It's more to ensure the drivers are moving once their charging session is complete.
Can I have one quick follow-up? Okay, so to that then, if we did go with option 2, I would definitely suggest then that fee after maybe 1 or 2 hours be much higher than $1.50 or $2 to really incentivize people to keep moving on. Because buying a car and I plugged it in and I only had to pay $2 after 3 hours or whatever, I would have no problem leaving it there for a couple of hours. I'd only have to pay like $6. So I think the fee after you give them 1 or 2 hours free, especially in the higher tourist areas, and then after that, then you have to pay a bit more. That's just a thought.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to agree with my colleague, Councillor Pat. Penticton has gone to charging. I don't think, it's not going to be very long that it's going to be like any other commodity out there. If I'm going down 97 highway and I need gas, I'll have a few choices, but I need gas. And I'll pull in and fill up or whatever, and off I go on my merry way. It should be the same as a charging station. I don't see, a difference, if you want to solve the problem of charging less downtown than you would on the highway, then don't have any on the highway. Force everyone to come downtown to get their electrical vehicles charged. But to have anything free, I don't agree with. I think, like I say, we've had this 6 years, and I think it's time to put it to a retail number. And I agree, there should be the asset management component built in. I mean, the last intake that we took as a community, our gas tax money, we built what, state fund? That money came from you and I and everybody in Canada buying gasoline. So all of a sudden, if I choose to buy an electric car, I don't have to participate in that anymore. Should we look at it locally? If we're supplying this service, then we need to collect money for asset management to replace these chargers in the future. And for the people that are, and then also they're using our roads. So do we put a bit of that towards our infrastructure costs in the future too? So, I think I'm more along the lines of the Petro-Canada approach. And see how that comes together. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barkle and then Councillor Carlson.
On the philosophical aspect, I think that a small charge, $2 an hour, and for the slow chargers and some amount I haven't figured out yet, $10 an hour or more. For the fast chargers is inconsequential to the consumer, to the person who is going to park for a while and charge their car, but very consequential to us in the community in the aggregate. It will add up. We might be a little bit ahead of our time to start charging now, but the next community is going to be saying Summerland and Penticton are charging, or if we go with charges, they'll be looking at what we're doing, and I think that everybody's going this way now, and we're having the discussion now, so we may as well do it. And the other part of that, similar to what Councillor Patton and Van Elfen has said, I believe the budget for our portion of the installation of these next charges is $200,000 from the taxpayers of Summerland. So we got to do something to get some of that money back, much less be able to, it'll be a long time before we're contributing towards our infrastructure if we got to pay $200,000 back. So it's enough that we're getting them. I think that the location is far more important than charge as far as getting people to the community. And I'd go for the option that includes charges at all times and all places and worry about the enforcement of it.
Thank you, Councillor.
I guess that sort of leads up to my question, as well as the philosophical part. It's if we charge $2 an hour and somebody's there for 2 hours and they've got a full charge and then they unplug it, how do we then enforce they staying there in that location and tying up that spot for free? What are we going to be patrolling it, or how do we do that?
So through the chair, our intention at this time is to install signage that indicates that these stations are for electric vehicle charging only. However, we have not, it's not our intention at this time to bring forward anything regarding like a parking bylaw or enforcement of that formally. EV drivers tend to self-police and be pretty good citizens, generally speaking, I would say, and as well the number of stations that we are making available to the community, we don't anticipate there being a lot of conflict around that. Of course, if we see that this is an emerging problem, we'll bring back some solutions for council's consideration.
Councillor Carlson, right?
Thank you. It's all been very enlightening. Question. Somewhere like Kelowna or Penticton or North Vancouver, they have parking fees. So if you drive any car downtown, you park your car, you're paying for it. Is that included in, like if I go now to Penticton and I park my car at an EV station, do I pay a parking fee plus an EV fee? Or in Vancouver, do you know?
Through the chair, my understanding is that that is included in your EV fee, which is why in some locations they have that fee at all. As I mentioned, the vast majority of level 2 stations are free, and in many cases where there is a fee, it's usually associated with parking.
Thank you. I think that's really important that we recognize that in Summerland there's not a single paid parking spot. We don't have any meters. Anybody can go and park anywhere, and taxpayers are paying for the maintenance of those parking spots as well, and we're not looking at installing meters on those. So I do think that if we have a 2-hour parking rule in all of our downtown streets, then all of a sudden to just charge people to park while they're plugged in for a little bit of power might not make sense unless you offer them that 2-hour free parking as well. So I just would for the level 2s anyways, I would be very cautious that we don't disincentivize people from coming downtown by actually charging them to park downtown.
Councillor Van Elfen and then Holmes.
Councillor Carlson brings up a good point, but what I'm seeing today, and I'm hoping signage will help correct that, but definitely on Wharton Street with the new complex that's been built there, that whole entire side of the park where the EV stations are has become a public parking spot. So, and you know, we're considering what, 5 at the post office parking lot. So, like I know at the post office parking lot, there's days where you pull in there and you can't get a parking spot. So those EV stations are gonna look pretty good to a guy who's got a vehicle that's gasoline. You know, so same thing at work. You know, like who's gonna stop someone from parking there? You know, that's a concern. If we don't have a parking bylaw at these EV stations, then who's gonna stop, you know, Mrs. Smith from pulling in there, parking as she has to go to the post office? You know, and if I have an apartment at Wharton, I could park there overnight. And who's gonna stop me from parking there? You know, I don't think signage is gonna cut it, personally, but.
Okay, Councillor Holmes and then Trainer.
Yeah, thank you. What did City of Penticton decide to start to charge?
At this time, they only have level 2 stations, and their decision was to charge $2 an hour at all times.
Yeah, my thinking is we don't want to necessarily undercut Penticton, and we don't want to charge more than Penticton because we don't want people stop not going here to go to Penticton to charge because it's cheaper. But on the other hand, we're kind of all in this together in a way, and it's good, better for the consumer if people have that and what the going market rate is in their head, and they don't want people saying, oh well, Penticton charge this, and someone will charge that. If you can avoid all that, I think it'd be a lot easier for people, and they appreciate it. So I think we should be talking to each other and kind of moving along together in the same direction.
Trainer?
This is a question for Councillor Patton. Do you know, is Petro-Canada, are they adding that fee on by choice to their electrical vehicle charging stations? That almost like a gas tax fee or whatever it is? Is that what they were doing?
Just in there on the internet, when you read about it, they've introduced the 33 cents a minute as a service to their customers that are charging, and they're the level 3 chargers.
And sorry, they collect that money and then where does it go?
It pays for the power and it puts money in Petro-Canada's pocket.
Okay, so they're not giving that money?
Back to anybody?
No, okay. For some reason, I thought they were like collecting it like a gas tax on behalf of someone, but okay, that's fine. That's my only question for now.
Okay. So I've come to the end of the list. Anybody else have questions? Okay, so now the difficult part, and that is making a recommendation, getting a recommendation on the table so that we can discuss it. You can always change the recommendation. Councillor Patton, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can see through my colleagues that they, as Councillor Holmes said, that we don't want to be more than Penticton. We don't want to be less than Penticton. So on the level 2s, if we were at $2 an hour, but I do truly believe that if we're going to be at the level 3 charging stations, that we don't do up to $18, but we do $18 an hour. And I think that way there's no gray, and it's they do the fast charge, and I think it would be okay. But so I would say $2 for the level 2 per hour all the time, and on the level 3s, $18 an hour.
So for level 2 stations, then you're looking at option 3, which is fee at all times.
Yes.
And then level 3 would be option 2, and you're looking at $18 per hour, not up to $18 per hour.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, good. We've got 2 seconders, so Councillor Barclay. And now open for discussion. Councillor Van Elton.
Oh, just more of a comment than anything. I have to agree with Councillor Holmes. I think we need to be competitive with our neighbors to the south, to some degree. And they don't have any level 3, so that's something they'll be looking at in the future, I'm sure, and looking what Summerland charges for level 3. Well, $18 from the get-go, right? So I agree. There has to be some harmony. We're not 7-Eleven, we're not Esso, we're not this, we're not that. I agree with the motion that's on the floor, and I think there, in the future, I'm hoping there can be more communication with our neighbors. I'm sure there has been lots already, but trying to keep our fees consistent with our neighbors to the south and possibly to the north. And I just think it's a great project, and it's been going on for a long time, and I just think it's time that everybody paid their fair share. And, you know, I have a gasoline vehicle, I have a propane vehicle. You know, I prefer to drive the propane one because it's less money, but I'm still paying tax on that propane. So, you know, I think this is a good start. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Barkle.
You know, I can see maybe some decline in usage once we start to charge a fee. The local person might think, well, I'm going downtown, and if I'm going to go downtown, I may as well get a little bit of free juice while I'm there. And they might not do that anymore. But, you know, sooner or later, the number of electric cars are just going to increase. It's really a guess and by golly right now what the usage will be, but I think that the time has finally come to start charging. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Carlson and then back to Councilor. Thank you.
So based on what I've heard, we would charge $18. So let's say you live in Summerland and it's 10 o'clock at night, and you've just come home from a really long trip, and you don't have, and you've got a new car or whatever. So you have to go and plug your car into one of these level 2 stations and leave your car there all night. It's going to cost you basically more than if you had 20 minutes of free time to go and plug into one of the level 3 stations and be home by like 11 o'clock at night. I think that we're by charging $18 for the fast one and then charging every single minute of the level 2, I don't think people are going to use the level 2 stations. They're just all going to go plug into the fast one and carry on. And we're going to have all these really awesome level 2 stations that nobody uses, because why would they bother if they're going to be charged the same amount, right? If it's going to take me 3 or 4 hours to charge my car, it's going to cost me $10. I might as well do the 20-minute charge and pay $9 is what it's going to end up costing me, right? So I don't know. I hazard that we are going to lose a lot of usage on those stations, or I caution that, because in my mind, it wouldn't make sense at all to use the level 2 if the level 3 was available at the cost that we're offering.
Councilor Van Alphen and then Councilor Barkle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question through to our director of our electrical department, if I may. Is it more economical if I had an electric car to charge from home?
To the mayor. So right now, and just to give you some electric utility perspective, the charging stations don't make much of a difference to electric utility because we look at them as just another customer, and we charge the district 10 cents a kilowatt hour for the power that those stations use. So at $2, is that what we're at $2, and at $18 per charge, you're likely better in your home charging station as far as your cost to charge your vehicle. Especially, it depends on a few factors on which vehicle you have, how much time you need to charge it for. But with the slow chargers, you're looking at, I believe, around 8 hours to charge up your typical car today. So you're probably better at home paying the 13 cents a kilowatt hour for your vehicle. I can't say off the top of my head how much you're going to save, but I believe you will save some amount.
Just to follow up on that then, so probably we may see a decline in usage on some of our chargers because I'm sure some people already have that infrastructure in place at home, but guess what? It's free downtown. So why would I use it home, right? So, you know, if I was going to buy an electric car, I would have a plug-in at home, you know, because I'm not leaving my $50,000, $60,000 car downtown overnight. I'll guarantee you that, pardon me?
People do it all the time. I walked downtown at 8 o'clock this morning and I saw 2 of them. They were
Well-
plugged in all night.
You know, good for them, I guess, but, you know, like I say, I think we'll probably see a decline in usage because a lot of them will have that infrastructure already at home to plug in. Whereas, you know, it's more economical. Today, they're using what we have downtown because it's free. I would too.
Were you next or you just gone?
I'm not,
You're next, and then Councillor Trainer.
yeah, I didn't really follow Councillor Carlson's reasoning here on who would use it and who wouldn't. I think you would, if you were downtown for an hour or two of shopping, you might plug in. It's super easy to charge. If you're in a hurry and you're going from here to there, then you use the fast charger. That's why there's the 2. If people are parking overnight downtown now, it's only because it's free and the taxpayers of Summerland are subsidizing these people with our electricity and services for something that isn't really necessary and doing anybody any good. You know, why would we want to continue to do that?
Did you just say that electric vehicles aren't necessary and not doing anybody any good?
No, that's providing the free electricity
Oh,
isn't
okay.
doing anybody any good.
Come full circle, okay.
Councillor Trainer?
So I'm okay with the motions to put on the table. My only thing is that I would prefer to have it in there that the fee could be up to 18 an hour just for the first year because we don't have any, like I said, we don't have any data yet on how these stations will be used. And maybe the ones on the highway will get a ton of use, whereas the ones downtown aren't. And if we have this flexibility here, that way we can, if we feel the need to, throughout the year, we could maybe incentivize and make the ones in downtown slightly lower so that people come to downtown. It just gives us the flexibility without it having to come back to us each time. And so that's just something that I would put out there. I don't know if other people agree or not, but I think for the first year, if we go with option, I think if it was option 3 and 2 for both of them, that we have at least a little bit of flexibility in there so we can see what's going on.
Okay. Councillor Patton, then Barthel, and, did you, Jeremy? Okay, we'll have you with staff for a moment, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick calculation there with a lot of assumptions, but just really high level looks like charging at home is probably less than a quarter the cost charging at a $2 station.
Okay. So I have Councillor Patton first, and then Barthel, and then we have a couple over here, Holmes, and then Carlson, and then Bell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. According to staff's chart here, at $18 per hour, our net revenue on a charging station over the course of a year, if it was used all the time, would only be $370. So the return on our investment, as Councillor Barkwell indicated, at the investment of $200,000 at $370, $18 level 3 if it's used all the time, our payback on that $200,000 is going to be quite some time. So I understand where Councillor Trainer's coming, but I still feel that we can't do an up to because we'll never hit the $18 an hour. If we come in at $18 an hour, then staff knows where we are, we know where we are, and anybody coming to our charging stations knows where we are.
Councillor Barthel?
Just for council's information, just to add a bit of context around the assumptions that were made in the report. So this is for the first year of use, which we assumed based on sort of the trajectory of use to date. And we tried to be very, very conservative. And so we estimated that each of the 6 fast chargers would have 1 half-hour charging session per day. So we know that that's probably very conservative, and that's where these numbers came from. But because we have 6 to average across, that's why we try to be as conservative as possible. So over time, we may see these numbers exceeded, and that's certainly our expectation. But just for a little bit of context, this is 1 half-hour session per day per station is the assumption.
Okay, thank you. Did you have a follow-up?
I did. It's quite the assumption, considering that's not what the report is reading. And so I still stand by that we do $18 an hour. And if it's more, fantastic for the municipality, our net revenues will just be higher. Thank you.
Councilor Rothwell?
Yes, speaking to the issue of whether it should be up to, or as the motion reads now, just $18 an hour. I think, and I believe what our corporate officer was saying earlier, that if there's a change in the rates recommended, that it can come to council for a discussion. And I'd like to see the rates stay in the council domain, just like whatever fees and charges for the aquatic center, all our fees and charges are discussed at the council level, and that's where I think it should stay.
Thank you. Councilor Holmes?
Yeah, I think $18 is reasonable. I think when you look at the level 3s, these are people who are going to want to charge the vehicle now, and maybe to charge it and then keep going. They're not, the reason we stuck them on the highway is because those are people who aren't really necessarily interested in coming into town and lingering about. They want to keep on moving, and so they'll be prepared to pay $18. So I don't really see that as a fee as a problem or anything like that. And I think, if I remember correctly, the idea of putting them out on the highway by the tourist information center is they'll have 20 minutes or so to kill. What do you do there? There's nothing to do except go into the tourist information center, and maybe they'll hear like what they have to see there, and then come into town after charging their vehicle. So I think when you consider where the locations are, the purpose of using a level 3 versus a level 2, I have no problem setting it $18. And I think when we do review them, we're not going to be reviewing them, setting them downwards. We could be increasing them. So it's a fair price, if you ask me.
Councilor Carlson and then Van Alphen.
I don't have an issue with charging money for the level 3s right from the get-go. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I really think that if we're going to have 19 level 2 charging stations and we're going to have free parking all over Summerland, people aren't going to use them. I just don't see the reason that you wouldn't go and do your little charge, and then, like, I don't know, maybe I'm incorrect, but I don't know that people, unless we give them a free hour and then charge the $2 an hour after that, but because everywhere else is free to park, it just doesn't really make sense to me.
Councilor Van Alphen and then back to Councilor Work.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question through our director of our electrical utility. At the chamber location, is it wired? Do we have 3-phase in place? Is it a huge cost to plumb these in?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There is a cost. Currently, there's only single-phase power at the Tourist Information Center. We need 3-phase power there. We are looking at a couple different ways to get 3-phase power there. The most likely way of doing that is along the highway. There's some restrictions there based on highway property and the private property that's through there. So there are some technical challenges there, but we don't have a detailed design today, and so we don't have a detailed estimate today. We have a high-level estimate for that, and that's, I believe, Tammy can comment, I believe that's covered by the grant. So there is a cost associated with that.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, you said earlier, you're selling power to these EV stations at the district's cost were 10 cents. So what's it cost me at home? Like if I have an electric station at my house, what are you charging me?
Thank you. That is at our residential rate. In all likelihood, if it's at a residential home, and that's closer to 13 cents per kilowatt hour. And the district rate for power is 10 cents, 0.1012 dollars per kilowatt hour. So there's a bit of a discount for the municipality on electrical rates.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Barpool and then Councillor Holmes.
I think Councillor Carlson could be quite right that people might, with their electric car, come into town and not pay $2 an hour and park somewhere beside it because it's free. And part of that is, did we really need at this time 20 stations? But that was the minimum in the application, so that's what we had to go with. And the other part is just because why would you give it to them for free anyway? If they're going to come down and park beside the one, if it was a charge, like why do you want to give it to them, give our electricity to somebody for free? I guess is my question.
Well, now they're using a parking spot that the guy that driving a regular vehicle can't use, right?
So
now you've got all these other cars that have nowhere to park downtown, so they go somewhere else.
But
I don't know. It's just a assumption, and I think that we got a huge grant to do this project, and we have the ability to give somebody a free $2 and then charge them $2 for the next hour and the next hour and the next hour. I just think that instead of full on charging, why not offer the incentive to park your car right there, and then once they've done their free hour, they will pay. No, it just makes sense to me that the chamber actually recommended that as well. So I mean, if parking downtown Summerland wasn't free, I wouldn't think the same way. But I think that because parking is free, we need to consider offering that in that hour or that 2 hour incentive, because it would be.
Did I get responded?
Yes.
I
Okay.
mean,
Councillor Holmes.
but they're not paying to park. They're paying to buy electricity.
But they are paying in other cities where they have this fee. They also have it covers their parking fee. That's why I asked that question, because we don't have a parking fee. Is it fair to charge them to park?
You're charging them not to park, to charge.
Well, the other guys are only charging them because they're also charging to park. Right?
That's because they're taking up a paid spot.
Correct. So
They-
these
they-
are taking up a free
They
spot.
would be taking a free spot, yeah,
Right.
which is not fair to the non-charging people, right?
Well, it would be, if they weren't charging, it would still be a free spot. I don't know.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thanks. Again, I go back to what our objectives are, and I think, yes, Councillor Carlson, you're absolutely right, the residents won't bother to charge. They'll just keep it easier, cheaper for them to charge at home. But if our objectives are economic development and attracting tourists, then I think charging from the get-go makes sense. And I don't really see it as a paying for parking thing, it's paying for the infrastructure and everything that we're putting in as well as electricity. So now is that going to create a parking crunch downtown? Well, if it does, then I guess we can address that. And, but I never really believed that we have a parking shortage downtown. It's never been a problem, even on during the busiest events happening. During say light up, people still find places to park. So I don't really see that as a huge issue. But I was just wondering if have we installed all the the new level 2s that we're receiving, and if not, is there an opportunity to maybe review of where we put those so we don't put them all concentrated in the same places?
Thank you through the chair. So the short answer is no, we haven't installed them all. Staff have been asked to prepare a report for the next council meeting on the 23rd to give you a formal update about the progress of the installations at the various locations. Of course, we can discuss further at that time if council wants to make a decision to deviate from the plan in terms of where the stations are located. However, that would need to be approved by the funder. And so we have to go back to the funder and indicate that we're looking to change their approved plan for the locations.
Okay, so we've discussed this for some time now, and the resolution that's on the floor is option 3, so $2 per hour from the get-go, and a level 3 stations is just one second, Councilor Turner, $18 an hour with no up to. That's how it stands now. Yes, Councilor Turner.
Are we able to divide this into two, where we vote on the two levels separately?
Absolutely.
Just because I have different feelings. I agree with one, I don't agree with the other. So I don't want to vote the whole thing down to myself. I'd like to be able to divide it into two. If that's possible.
Okay, we'll do that. So we'll talk about level 2 stations 1, which right now is at option 3. Councilor Barco?
I don't think we can do that without amending the motion, or else defeating this motion and doing 2 separate ones,
Karen?
because it's already on the table.
We have to defeat this first?
Yeah, the motion's already been moved and seconded, I understand.
Yes.
So we do need to act on that, whether it's amending or not.
You have to.
Okay, so we will vote on what we have on the floor now, and then see how that goes. So, all in favor? Okay, and then opposed? I guess we're going. Okay. So that's done then. Okay. So you have what you need then, do you, Tammy? Yes. Okay, and on to 7.5. Allison is going to be presenting this, I think, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, there she is.
Go ahead, Allison.
Hello. Okay. Actually, just before you go ahead, Councilor Barco?
Oh, I thought, well, we were waiting for Allison, but we're not really waiting anymore. But actually, maybe we should think about parking meters for downtown, and Nelson raises.
Okay, so let's get on to Allison. Thank you for that levity, Councilor Barco.
Budget's coming up.
Okay, 7.5, GIS capital project updates. We've been hearing lots about this, Allison. We're all excited.
Well, as am I. So I think I'll take it away with a bit of background information and then jump into a demo of the brand new Summerland station viewer.
Sounds great.
All right. All right, so good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me. I am Allison Thorpe, the GIS and Database Administrator, and I'm here to give you an update on the GIS Capital Project. So back in 2018, Council at the time made a motion in support of transitioning from the Esri, made a motion to support the transition of the GIS interface that the district currently had in MapGuide to the Esri Enterprise system. And the reason for this was MapGuide was no longer going to be supported in 2019. So this plan was developed to help aid with that, more of the short term, and then looking long term as well. At this time, we have completed the new internal maps and the new external map, which I will show you shortly. And that therefore completes the transition from moving from a MapGuide interface to an Esri Enterprise interface. The next steps, the next 3 items are related to building or updating the current geospatial infrastructure, and that's supposed to happen over 2021 and 2022, and hopefully we'll be able to have all that in place so the ultimate goal at the end of this can be reached by 2024. In 2020, we saw lots of accomplishments on the capital project, including the launch of 4 new departmental maps and the new external map, the Summerland Spatial Viewer. These applications include aerial photos flown in May of 2020, the ability to create custom map prints along with property reports. Parcel Map BC, maintained and provided by LTSA, has been adopted by the district, so Summerland is no longer maintaining our own parcel fabric. This save and staff resources also allows for consistency across municipal and regional government and related organizations who have already adopted. Some of these adopters include City of Penticton, City of Kamloops, BC Assessment, and the ALC. And we have a script that updates this every week when we get a new package of data. And the updates for this have been very beneficial during the pandemic, as there has been limited staff available to maintain the fabric. Having a script that automatically downloads and updates data that ensures the parcel fabric has been kept up to date is beneficial. We also have a script that runs every night to update any addresses that may have been updated on the parcel. So the new Summerland Spatial Viewer, which is our new external map, is built using ArcGIS Online. However, all the data is residing on our servers on site in Canada. And that was officially rolled out around 3:30 on October 23rd. And we've made announcements on the district website, the Facebook homepage, and in the November newsletter. Next week is Geography Awareness Week, and I will be taking over the district's Facebook page to share some information and tips about the new Summerland Spatial Viewer. In the middle of the week, we have GIS Day, and the old map, which is still available to use, will officially be retired. And by retired, we're going to take the URL mapping.summerland.ca. If you go to that, you're going to be redirected to the Spatial Viewer. So, I think the point you've all been waiting for, the demo and overview of our brand new external facing map. Wait for it to load here for a moment. All right, so welcome to the Summerland Spatial Viewer. You are greeted with a lovely note about our disclaimer in terms of use. So once you read through that and click on the I accept and I agree buttons, you can continue on. If you need a refresher of what the disclaimer in terms of use are, these links you go to our district website and to the terms of use on just a normal piece of paper. And then also at the top, we have the map user guide and instructional videos, so you can have instructions given to you in a paper format or on the district YouTube channel. We also have a set of 5 videos, about 15 minutes in total, show you how to do some of the things I'm going to show you now. We also have the ability to have users submit feedback or questions by clicking the contact link here, which leads to the contact form on the district website. Okay. And the last link up here is the layer list. And the layer list is basically a table of contents to show you what information is available under which sections in which map. All the ones with stars on it are on by default, and anything with a link indicates that it's not maintained by the district. It is from an external source, so there's more information available to anybody willing would like that information. Speaking of the layer list, that layer list refers to this widget here, and you can go in and see all our lovely layers. There's about 102 layers in total, which is quite a bit. If you don't want to look up, you look at layer list to find out where things are. You can very simply search. So I'm going to search for slope and turn on a couple of things here and turn off a few layers. Very handy tool. And I'm also going to turn on the contours. And by holding the shift button and drawing a box, I'm going to zoom in to a portion of the map. Cancel out of here. And the contours are turned on, but you can't see them right now. So there is a solution to that. You put the 3 dots next to any any layer, you have these options, such as move up and move down. And you have the contours there. All right. The other thing that you can do is change the transparency. So I'm going to turn the air photo on, but you can't see it too well right now. Go in here and slowly the landscape and adjust the transparency. Some fun stuff there. All right. Turn that layer off. And we are now left with the ortho photo and some of our parcels. So as the ortho photo is on top of the base map, and some of the information in those base maps disappears, such as roads, we've got this lovely label section in here. And if you scroll down, you will find the road name. And as you zoom in, and as it takes its time to find, come on. Okay, the road names should be appearing in here, and I'm not quite sure why they are not this time. They were working a few minutes ago. Well, when in doubt, refresh the map. Here, we'll turn the ortho photos back on, and we will make sure the roads are turned on as well. As you will notice, there's a bunch of layers that are grayed out. When they're grayed out, it means that you can't see them at that current zoom extent. So zoom in, and you will be able to see the layers. So on 2020, holding the shift button and zooming in. Okay, there seems to be an issue with the labels. I will look into that right after this is over. That is the solution to finding the road name when that layer likes to work. So moving along, if you are wondering, there's about 10 tools available in this top bit. So this is the more button here, if you don't have screen space to see them all. So if you want to know what's turned on anytime, click on the legend, and it will create the legend. Not sure why everything's so slow right now. Usually it works a lot faster. We also have the opportunity to measure, draw, and bookmark. These are all covered in the video, so I won't go into them right now. And the ability to share. Now, share does share. You can share out by social media or by email, and that will give you the extent of the map you're on, but not the layer itself. And it looks like our legend has loaded. Oh, and the road names have loaded. Road labels have loaded as well, along with the civic address. There's your legend. There is also the base map gallery. So if you do not like the base map that was first shown, which is the topography one, you can have a selection of about 16 different ones. Now, because the air photo is turned on, we won't be able to see the base map initially. So we'll turn that off. Go into base map gallery and choose a view. I'll zoom out a bit here too as well. All right. So OpenStreetMap, imagery from Esri with labels, and it's also a really cool night street base map, and that one might take a little bit to load. There we go. And I'm going to finish off with the topography base map here. All right. Also in here is the map info pane. This pane should show up by default as you launch the map. This gives you some information about the map, what's in it, update schedule of parcel fabric and the addressing, more links to the videos, and acknowledgements of where other data sources are coming from with links to those sources for more information and additional information down here as well. And speaking of the videos, most of the tools in here do have a video accompanying it, but the one that doesn't is Property Report. This is a very fancy, exciting tool. So there's a couple ways to do this. The easiest way is to click on a property and produce one. So I am going to search a property, and you can search for properties by the address, PID, the folio, and the plan. So we are going to go to Giant's Head Park. Yep. And you will have a selection of about 6 items that match that you can choose to from and click. I'm going to go back in here and turn on our park layer. Okay. And so now we have parks and trails on. So to create a property report, click on the property, make sure you're under property information. Click on the 3 dots that are down at the bottom here and select set as input for property report. And hit run. So this is probably going to take a few minutes. So in the meantime, we are going to create a print. So this one allows you to create a PDF or a map of basically, there we go. Allows us to create a map in a variety of different templates, 11.5 by 17, portrait or landscape, with a legend, without. We're just going to keep with the default here. You can also choose it in multiple formats. And hit advanced settings if you want, but that's in the video. So we're going to hit click, print, and that should show up here shortly. While that does that, I'm going to show you a bit more information about the pop-ups. So when you click on a feature, you will see up in the top corner here how many features are associated with the point you clicked on. So in this case, there's 4, and you can navigate to it by going to next feature, to or from. Great. The property report should be completed now. Go back in there. There it is. And here we go. So the property report has parcel information, assessment information, and additional spatial information associated with that parcel on what, if it's in the ALR or not, what zoning is, what OCP it is, if there's any applicable DPAs or development permit areas, what the collection day is. So this information is all available on one nice page. And it's available for all parcels with a folio. If there's multiple folios per parcel, an additional a property report will be created for each of them. Now, so our print should be done. I'll go back in there. And here we go. And because I changed the title from the default, it's been updated down here. One thing to note is that the print will reflect what layers are turned on and off on the map, whereas the property report, the map will always have the same format. So it will always have parcels, easements, and the 2020 orthophoto, regardless of what information you have turned on the map. All right. So I think that's a summary of the important tools within this lovely new map that I am quite proud of. And so far there have been over 11,000 views since the map was launched on October 24th, so about 21 average views per day. Is there anything, before I conclude and go back to the PowerPoint, you would like me to show you, like me to repeat, anything you'd like to see?
Councillor Markle?
I noticed that the utilities are on, like water, sewer, but I don't see any layer for the electrical utilities. Is that planned for the future?
I would direct that question to our manager of the electrical utility, if that is possible, please.
Allison, they're not here right now, but I can.
Oh, they're not here right now.
I can speak generally to that as far as the information that's provided on the map through your worship is basically ongoing. So we do have a certain amount of utility information there. There will be some point where we're going to be doing utility modeling, which will help us once we've kind of looked at the data and made sure it's current and up to date. So all of those things are yet to come.
All right, thank you, Karen.
Any other questions for Allison? Councillor Holmes.
Thank you. Just a comment, really. I think if you
if you go in and take a look at the old map before it goes offline and open in a separate window the new one and just compare the two, I did that last night, and it's like night and day. It's amazing. So, well done.
Thank you. For comparison, I'm just pulling the old map up right now. And there you go. So from that to this, it's a considerable difference for sure. Okay.
Barkwell?
Thank you, Mira. Years ago, I guess you could send your air photos to Google Earth and they would update Google Earth images for our area. Do they still do that? And can we do that?
I believe so. I have to get in touch with a few people who know how to do that process. I did try to send ortho photos a little while ago and I hadn't heard anything back. So I need to get a hold of somebody who knows a contact there to do that. We are a part of the Esri Canada Community Mapping Program. So what will be happening is Esri Canada will be taking our ortho photos and including them in their own base map. So hopefully by 2021, it will be our imagery on this base map instead of, I'm not sure what the source is right now, will be updated. So the Esri base map will be reflecting our orthophoto data along with some of our vector data as well, such as the parks and the trails.
Okay. I think you can resume your PowerPoint now, Allison.
All right. So I mentioned the number of views earlier. There's lots of statistics we can pull, but the one that stands out to me is the almost 970,000 features we have within our active production GIS databases within 248 layers. A feature is every park, every manhole, every pipe segment, and you add those all up, and that's the number you get. That doesn't include the attribute information. So for example, if you take the roads layer, you will have information in there such as length, width, height, surface type, speed limit. And it just shows how much information can be stored within a GIS system and how much, and all that information needs to be maintained and managed and kept track of. It's a significant amount of information that can be used to help better governance, help users make decisions, and improve business processes. So what's next now that we've accomplished the internal and external maps and switched from map guide to ArcGIS? Basically, the next 2 years will be focused on formalizing procedures and completing updates to the geospatial infrastructure while maintaining the current system and planning for repeat tasks. These repeat tasks are items such as flying ortho photos every 2 years and planning for the next enterprise update for the portal. This will allow for innovation within the district's GIS, and so it stays in sync with technological advances while continuing to provide valuable resources to staff, stakeholders, and the residents of Summerland. And that is all I have for you today. I'm ready to answer any questions you may have.
One quick question, Allison. Are the aerial photos done every 2 years?
Not yet. So we look back, it's about every 3 years. They haven't been consistent. This year, the ortho photos were accomplished through a cost share with the City of Kelowna and the City of Penticton. I'm hoping to have them every 2 years. There is a reason to have them every year. I'm also open to that. It seems to be the layer lots of people get the most value from.
Thank you. Any other questions, Council? Okay, I guess there aren't any other questions. So I will just ask somebody to bring that forward for information. Councillor Patton, Councillor Van Alphen, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you so much, Allison. It was worth the wait.
All right, thank
well
you.
done. Okay, and now a resolution to close the meeting to the public. Councillor Patton and Councillor Barcole. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And let's take a bit of a break here. So we get things reorganized.